no one asked me to do anything anymore. It was all automated. Everything's automated. The team would rally around the agenda and just knock off the items as a group. No friction, understanding who's going to give a little bit, who's going to take a little more, without it being a me mentality. So it became a we mentality, and that's just a way more fun place to work. It's interesting. One of the things, I have a pet peeve. So this is a little bit with accountants. They're always like, we need your historical data. So my analogy to you would be is if you had a business and you were playing in a league and you had all losses, and I said to you, forget your losses, forget about the old 2024, 23, 22, all that's irrelevant. 2025, we're going to implement a new plan, including new financials, and we're going to move forward, and we're going to start to score, and we're going to start to win. That is a much better approach than rejigging and looking at old numbers that don't actually mean anything. So, it's like you had a car accident and you move on. You get a new car and you move on. And so, accountants are stuck in the past. It's like essentially looking at data that's already happened. We're going to create new data. And so I oftentimes have friction with accountants that want to preserve old financials, especially for smaller companies that the data really means nothing.
And so it sounds like it's a tough journey to actually develop this turnkey business. And you were able to do it relatively quickly, like in a span of
I would say
3 years.
slowly. I would say, we've been in business almost 40 years, and I would say, we did a lot of learning through mistakes, which is completely avoidable. And then we started doing a lot of learning through doing things right. And the cost of that change was expensive. So imagine all our money's going into process development, paying me to work on not selling customers, but making the business better. That's expensive. Once that's done, I don't need to be in the business anymore. So I'm no longer part of the overhead. Things just run well. And then it's tweaks. You're tweaking things. You're not doing absolute full on, lobotomies on your business. And so, I would say a business, if done right, if you could start, like if you're starting a new business and you did this right, you would save yourself 20 years, 25 years for sure. And the chances of success would go up exponentially. And so we've got a few clients that are avoiding mistakes. They're paying us to avoid mistakes. And it's a game changer. It really is. So even on things like I'm building this retaining wall and I'm worried about this. Well, we can give you all the construction solutions as well. We've built pretty much everything at Oriole Landscaping, including our solid space construction for home construction, underpinning, all that stuff. So, if you're doing an estimate, you're not sure what the number should be and you're completely, out of your game, something you've never done before. We've got the team. I often refer to my general manager or some of my project managers to ask them for advice on some specific project, because I've been in the construction for a few years. But what a difference that makes to not make that mistake in the construction phase. So how many of you make mistakes on estimating? So that's something I think that's the biggest opportunity, is to get your estimating right. If you get that right, you're going to make way fewer mistakes. Of course, you got to learn to worry about the people and collecting the money and all that stuff, but at least get the job done right and make sure that the amount of time that you've allocated is correct. So that's the biggest thing. If you can get that right, you're halfway there. That's for sure.
Okay, so maybe what was quick was, because I'm trying to piece this together, because there's a sense in which your transition to a turnkey business was really fast, but there's also a sense in which it was really slow. It was really slow because, there's just this 35 years of kind of like business experience that you were gaining. You were building the team, right? You were learning, how to run a business. You were building processes slowly. You'd implemented Kaizen maybe 10 years prior to, really starting the turnkey journey. But so you have all that background experience. But then there seems to have been something where, like, from 2020 to 2023, you had this kind of like, I don't know, this epiphany where you were like, oh my God, I can get myself out of the business. I don't need to work in it anymore.
I actually did the math. I did
Yeah.
the math. I'm like, okay, how many mistakes are we making this year? And what does that cost? Okay. So what if my only focus was to prevent the mistakes? What would that be? And it exceeded my salary. And so if I know what I knew now and I started, I would have saved millions of dollars. So, who's the chief improvement officer? It's interesting. one company I'm working with, they're probably about 13, 14 million in the US. And we have strategic planning, and then there's some tactical emergency. So we have to pivot because we have to deal with that fire right away before we go back to strategy. And that's when I realized, you know what? My solution to this is very simple. Rather than booking three days, I'm going to book 5 days. I'm going to keep it open, and I'll fly back early if there's nothing to do. That way I can deal with the tactical and complete the strategic. So imagine I don't have a fixed timeline now for improvement. I can ebb and flow, right? So that's a great way to look at some, solution to a problem. And the client has to be open enough to having a bigger bill. Having said that, they're going to resolve some issues. And if I put $1 to the savings, it's, usually 10 to 1 at least, because some of the problems perpetuate themselves year after year after year. So it's like, let's shut the problem down once and for all. How do we do that? And I think that's a big game changer. So, most companies just either don't have the bandwidth or the experience or the knowledge to actually resolve the issues themselves, and they don't have the experience to know what to do. And, I think Justin from JC Landscaping, he's probably the epitome of, the coach guy. He hires so many coaches. It's unbelievable.